Hi, it's Janet Hansbach here. One of the weirdest songs to come out of Bowie's Berlin Years trilogy has to be African Night Flight. I got this album when I was 10 years old, and I remember being particularly disturbed by the album cover. It looked as if Bowie had really, injured himself or had fallen down or cut himself shaving. I remember experiencing the same sense of shock around about the same time when I saw the album cover to AC/DC's If You Want Blood, where Angus Young has been impaled by his very own guitar. These covers were quite impressionable when I was young. When you're that age, anything that comes out of the music industry has to be true. That is until you reach the age of reason. Over the years, from time to time, I've listened to African Night Flight, and I really like it. But I still think it's weird. So in this video, I'm going to attempt to find out why it sounds weird. The song is a collaborative effort between Brian Eno and David Bowie. In fact, this collaboration proved to be quite fruitful on the earlier two albums, Low and Heroes. It was still fruitful on Lodger, but by this time, the music relationship seemed to have run its course, and Eno was keen to go off and work with Talking Heads. During the band rehearsals for Lodger, Eno was very instrumental in creating new musical situations. He integrated music of chance concepts, tried out different things. For example, they would play old songs and reverse the chord progressions. There's a story where Eno had written some chords on a board in front of the band while they were rehearsing, and while they were playing, he would just randomly point to different chords on the board and the band would follow. I suppose in order to create a musical spontaneity. In fact, the main groove to African Night Flight came about from the band Jammy Susie Q by Dale Hawkins. As you can hear, the rhythmic sensibilities are quite similar. Eno was credited as a cricket menace for African Night Flight. In an interview many years later, Bowie had explained that the sounds that he had created from the CR78, the Roland beatbox, and a briefcase synthesizer. At the beginning, there's this prepared piano loop. Prepared piano is whereby you lift the lid on a grand piano and place objects on the strings inside. And then when you play the key on the instrument, you get a percussive sound. The idea of the prepared piano was realized by John Cage back in 1938, who later went on and recorded a collection of solo piano pieces using this principle. Interspersed with the prepared piano loop are these animal and insect sounds that you can hear there that are integrated into the main groove. And this would have been done by splicing tape, I suppose, sort of common editing process back in the day. After this introduction, Bowie's vocals come in. This is a really interesting vocal performance. Not only an interesting vocal performance, but also the lyrical content. For some of his songs earlier on in his career, he would write lyrics and then just sort of cut and paste. He would cut out words and put them in different places so that they weren't necessarily grammatically correct, but had a certain poetic license. And this almost sounds like an example of that.
A lot of the things that I'd done, it seemed that it would predict things about the future or tell me a lot about the past. It's really quite an astonishing thing. I suppose it's a very Western tarot. I don't know. Anyway, let's see what happens.
The source of inspiration for the lyrics to African Night Flight came about from a trip that Bowie had taken to Africa, where he visited local areas, local tribes, and met some interesting people. So this song, in a way, to some extent, I suppose, is a culmination of that experience. The lyrics are very scatty, and I really love the rhythmic emphasis, the way he places syllables and the way the words are assembled.
African nightmare, one time moment, falling, hullabaloo, I slipped to the nearest bar, and a man Sherman went too far. Went on and went for winter, so he wonder how the dollar went down.
Bowie sings the song with a strong sense of urgency, it's kind of distressed, very frenetic-like. In fact, there's the author to the book Ashes to Ashes, Chris O'Leary, makes a reference to a novel called Alphabetical Africa, which was written by Walter Abish. Essentially, the novel is about some imaginary African continent with these strange characters. It's a fascinating book, primarily because the first chapter uses words that begin with A only. So chapter 1 is A. Every word begins with A. The second chapter, it's A and B. So chapter C, it's A, B, and C. So all words that begin with A, B, and C form that particular chapter. And then it gets to Z, where it uses all 26 letters of the alphabet. And then the next chapter is 25 letters, 24, and it's back to 1. So it's kind of a palindrome. It's a really interesting concept. After looking at the book, I started to think about the Hungarian composer Ligeti in a composition called Musica Ricercata. The principle is very similar in that the first piece is made up of only one note. This is the note A. I say one note loosely because at the very end, the last few bars, Ligeti introduces the note D. In the second piece, it's 2 notes. In the third piece, it's 3 notes. So the cardinality increases as the pieces follow. And so you have all 12 notes covered incrementally. This kind of interesting way of playing with the English language and the musical language. So I made that kind of correlation there. Anyway, I went off a tangent there and I digress. Anyway, back to African Night Flight. For the most part, the song is devoid of any tonal relationships. It's quite atonal and, there's no reason why it should have any tonality in it. But just out of interest, I wanted to try and pick things out. I'm not really interested in bringing it to any kind of musical, analytical conclusion at all. I was just curious to know what was going on because there are some notes, there are some implications of chords and harmony, but for the most part, it's quite out there. So at the beginning, you have that prepared piano loop, which is, and that's kind of the momentum. It's the integral part of the piano loop. All the other keys that are being played are subject to the prepared piano, where there are actual objects, metal objects on the strings inside the piano, and you can hear that kind of Cajun sound there. You have those notes there, which bear no relationship to the A, C sharp, D. Bowie's vocal performance is essentially a Sprechstimme, which is German for half sung and half spoken. This was a technique that was introduced by Arnold Schoenberg. When we get to the bridge, there's a slight hint of tonality where the bass line plays. So it's B, C, B, A, P, Bowie singing.
It's burning, I will see me through
And then the chant comes in. Our Santi, Habari, Habari, Our Santi, Habana, Habana. This is Swahili, it's derived from the Swahili language. And it's a chant, so there's multiple singers. They're not exact with their pitches, and they're not supposed to be exact. It's merely a chant, but their notes they're singing revolve around the kind of... While you have the D there, so it's a... It's a really dissonant sound. Great, sounds fantastic. A lot of people have mixed feelings about Lodger. I think it's a contentious album. You either love it or you don't like it and then you grow to like it. Whatever. It's kind of, I think it's a brilliant album. I absolutely love it. And matter of fact, It has one of my favorite, all-time favorite David Bowie songs on there. It's the first song on the album, Fantastic Voyage, which is truly a remarkable piece of music. I adore that song.
In the event that this fantastic voyage should turn to erosion.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.